NEESON. I am 64 years old. I'll be 65 in December. I was educated in Martin County Public School systems from elementary school, junior high school up all the way through Indian River Community College. I went there for 2 years before I went into the Air Force. I'm currently retired. I was a hospice nurse for 20 years out in Dallas. When I got out of the service, I stayed in Texas. Then I came home and I started a couple of little businesses. I had a swimming pool company, and then I owned Fredgie's hot dog stand over on the Jensen Beach for a while. I've lived in Martin County for over 50 years. My parents and grandparents are buried up on the hill. My father was a Floridian. His family was from Miami. My mother was from Chicago. I've lived in District 1 the entire time I've lived in Martin County. It's the only place I've ever wanted to live, and it's the only place I ever intend to live. What inspired me to run for Martin County Commission? Now that's an interesting question. I really didn't want to run for Martin County Commission, but I couldn't find anybody else that was interested in doing it. And I've been around the entire 20 years that Doug Smith has been in office. I'm not happy with his ethics. I'm not happy with the way he treats the residents that aren't developers or firefighters. I'm not happy for his visions for the future of Jensen Beach and Martin County. I'm not happy with his lack of communication. So, against my own better judgment, I opted to go ahead and run myself.
What do you most love about Martin County and Hutchinson Island? And specifically, what distinguishes them, do you think, from other places in Florida? What makes us unique?
That's really easy for me because I love Martin County. I love everything about Martin County. I'm a surfer, I'm a fisherwoman, I'm a diver. I love everything about Martin County. The thing I love the most and the thing I find most gratifying in my many decades of volunteering and activism in the area, this community takes care of each other. When we have an issue, we don't get a lot of support from the powers that be, but we stand tall together. We do fundraisers for people that are in a bind and need some money. One example is I had a friend of mine whose brother had a stroke. He was an employee at Crawdaddy's. The entire community got together. I cooked a pig, we threw a party, and made $12,000 for him to help him with his expenses. We do free burials and services at Jensen Beach Christian Church for any homeless veterans or anybody in the community that has an issue with a death that they are not able to afford. We afford to help them. We work on the food pantry for the last 8 years, and Jensen Beach Christian Church does between 450 and 600 families every Saturday. We provide food to everybody. There's no specific requirement. You just have to be hungry and you have to believe that you can do better. Just so many things. I work with 10 City Helpers, and it was easy to get that organized, and now they're a 501c3 and they're doing great. I was one of the founders of that. Working on the river issues over the years, I was one of the founders of the River Warriors. We had over 7,000 people show up at our first rally when the water started getting so bad. So the thing I love most about Martin County is the people of Martin County. The thing I love second about Martin County is it's freaking beautiful here. It's not as beautiful as it was when I was a kid. I was a kid, we didn't have all these buildings and things on the island. In 1973, they started pulling the first permits for building out here on the island. And my father was the Chamber of Commerce president and the commander of the American Legion in Jensen Beach. And I'll paraphrase what he said, but he said those SOBs aren't going to take our beaches, so we started the SOB fund to save our beaches fund. And we had surf contests and fishing contests and bake sales and garage sales and golf tournaments, and every penny we raised bought up all of those beach accesses that we have in Martin County. The state matched some funds and the feds matched some funds, and we got our beaches. One of the stipulations the class of '73 had, because we were the ones that spearheaded it under my father's guidance, and Dick Campbell, who was the Jensen Beach Mirror, Ransom Tilton and Norris Tilton, the Tilton brothers, Frank Walker Sr., Maggie Gerchala, all the good old time people that were the original environmentalists in Martin County. They all got together as the adults and helped us. And our stipulation to be able to help was we still had segregated beaches back then. And we decided that we would help, and we would spearhead it as the senior class of 1973 in Martin County if we could have a beach that was not segregated. So Tiger Shores was the first not segregated beach in Martin County, and that was part of our agreement. I love Martin County. Some of my favorite things are when people show up and I get to show them around, because I'm so proud and it's so much fun to do that. But I don't want to continue to have to say, well, this used to be like this, and this used to be like this. I want it to be just as wonderful as it was. I don't ever want us to lose the 4-story height limit. I don't ever want us to stop having impact fees. I want us to start paying more attention to development. It's time for us to have some smart development. We can't just continue to build, and bring people here and then say, well, now that you're here, figure out how you're going to get out to the beach because there's not enough roads to get you there. And figure out what you're going to do about the dirty water, because we're going to let you plant all the sod you want and let you fertilize it and do anything you want that's going to destroy the water. But that's on you, because we've already got our building done. We've got to stop. We've got to stop now. We've got to reevaluate. We've got to rebuild our infrastructure. We have elementary schools in Martin County that are in complete disrepair that need to be upgraded. Our water treatment plants are antiquated and way too small for the population. And so, as a result, we're taking biosolids out of them and spraying them in fields where people are planting things that we're going to eat. We need to slow down, figure out what we're going to do to accommodate the growth, and then start being smart about it.
So do you think those are the biggest challenges facing Martin County District 1 specifically, and most specifically Hutchinson Island over the next 4 years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look how much money we're wasting over and over again renourishing the beaches. Mother Nature every 3 years is going to take that sand anyway. It was the most bizarre thing when I was sitting in my hot dog stand one day a few years ago. They were dredging out at Jensen Beach, taking that sand and taking it up to Fort Pierce. In the meantime, they're dredging the inlet and they're taking that sand and putting it back on the beaches. I didn't get the whole concept of why we're moving all the sand from point A to point B. And when I was a kid, we had beautiful white sand, sugar sand we called it. This sand is not beach sand. It's never going to stick. It's never going to work. It's not meant to be there. We need to come up with a better plan. And we certainly don't want to ever go higher than 4-story limits, because we're never going to be able to have seawalls or any of that kind of thing here. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. Our entire state is sand, coquino rock, and coral. Inland, we have some actual dirt and muck where we can grow things. But on the coast, that's what we have. And no matter how big you build a seawall, the water's going to come under it and wash it out anyway, eventually. So you just keep throwing good money after bad, repeating the process of renourishment, and that just doesn't make sense to me.
One of the biggest topics right now in Martin County is the COVID pandemic. And there's been much debate about how that should be handled. What do you think is the best way for Martin County to handle this ongoing COVID pandemic?
Well, unfortunately, just like the overbuilding, this is another situation where we put the cart before the horse. This has gotten completely out of hand due specifically to poor leadership. Under no circumstances should we ever change the rules on businesses and people and teachers and uproot everybody's lives on a daily basis. There should have been a plan to begin with. I support wearing masks. 99% of Martin County does, because we could take care of each other. What I don't support is the Board of County Commissioners overstating and overreaching their ability to mandate. If it had not been for the state of emergency, the Board of County Commissioners would have had no authority to mandate in the beginning. And what that did was drive a wedge between people. It made it a constitutional issue in a lot of people's minds. And that separated the whole gist of let's just take care of each other. When I spoke before the county commission, I said the things that I would have considered had I been on the commission were several things. First of all, who's going to pay for these masks? A lot of these people have been out of work for months. If you've got 3 or 4 kids and you're a nurse, you know wearing a mask properly means they need to be disposed of. You need to leave your hands off of them. I have no idea how to even address the homemade cloth mask issue. That's a whole other ball of wax. We need to provide the masks. We need to educate the people on how to use the masks properly. We need to educate them on how to dispose of them properly. I'm finding them on the beaches, laying out on the ground. You see people wearing them on their elbow. You see people with them on their purses, on their rearview mirrors. we need to be smarter about it if they're really going to work. And I was in the military. You don't go into any action without an exit plan. What does success look like? Is it a number? And if it is a number, what's the number? And if it is a number and we get to that number, how long do we have to sustain that number? These are things that good, strong leaders would have considered long before they just arbitrarily asked their mom if they thought it was a good idea to do this.
What effect do you think the recent changes to the Martin County Comprehensive Plan will have on our county? And how specifically do you think these changes in the comp plan might affect Hutchinson Island?
I think the more that we overbuild and the more we keep bringing people here and the more that we keep trying to turn this into Broward County, the more everybody's going to hate it. And people came down here to have quality of life, to live in a beautiful place, and to not have to wait 2 hours to get over the bridges back and forth to be able to accomplish something on a pretty day. We don't want to have people lining up and down in front of all y'all's condos because the public beaches are so overfilled. Nobody's going to have quality of life if we keep trying to give quality of life to everybody. I use the analogies frequently. If you are an RVer, which a lot of people nowadays are, and you go to a campground and you want to spend the night, if the campground's full, you have to go someplace else. I feel like that's where we are with Martin County. There's places in Martin County that have more space. Hope Sound is just recently going out on their own, and they have a lot more space out west. West Martin County, we've got a lot of space. But that brings another issue to mind to me. I don't want one billionaire to come in and buy 80 acres of Martin County and put one home on it. We need to figure out how much land one person can have so that we can allow people to come here and enjoy it. But before we go any further and before we change anything on the comprehensive growth management plan, we need to come up with ways to handle the infrastructure. That little hitch in the get-along that we had with the Roosevelt Bridge, that, by the way, they did a fabulous job getting that back up and running so quickly, and I was very impressed with the management and the leadership in that case. But it proved just how bad it can be if we have one problem with infrastructure. We are not prepared to handle it, and we cannot move forward with more building, more growth, and blowing off the comprehensive growth management plan without expecting those kinds of results. It's time to stop, fix things, and then go forward.
You've already addressed some of the questions I'm about to ask, but this is very important to those of us who own property on Hutchinson Island. What do you see for the future of the island, especially related to additional construction? And do you think Martin County's 40-foot building height limit helps or hurts Hutchinson Island?
I think it helps. The fewer people we have out here, the better. First of all, they're barrier islands. These were made by God to shift and shoal and change to protect the mainland. They were never intended to be inhabited, especially with giant, giant buildings. The more people we have, the more traffic we have. The more traffic we have, the harder it's going to be on our roads. Our roads are built on sand. You can only beat them up so long. You can only rebuild them so long. The island is this thin. We're not going to be able to expand to more lanes of traffic. So I would have to turn the question around to you, since you live on the island and I've never lived on the island. How much would you like to put up with to be able to continue to live here?
Do you think the county should continue to invest in improving the impoundment sites behind Florida Oceanographic Society and the Jensen Beach Causeway?
That's a tough question, because recreationally on the causeway, that's historically been Jensen Beach family place. And we launch an awful lot of boats out of there. It's an epicenter for what we do for quality of life in Martin County. So there's going to have to be some investment in that along the way, and to maintain it and to keep it to where we can actually utilize it and accommodate the people that are here. As far as changing things up in the Oceanographic Center, I think at some point the Oceanographic Center may outgrow itself. Mark Perry is a friend of mine. I've worked closely with him. I've been in that center many, many, many times. I think it's also a vital part of the community. I think it's important that especially our children have the access to that to be able to learn. If you learn about something and you love something, you're going to take care of it. And that's the goal for Martin County.
How will you work to help protect and preserve Hutchinson Island, especially our waters and our sea turtles, which are very important to many of the residents and property owners on Hutchinson Island?
Well, I've been sitting out here watching these turtles lay eggs since I was a little tiny girl. My granddad used to take me out here. He'd sit there and have a couple of cold beers, and we'd sit there at night and fish and wait for the turtles. I think I like turtles a whole lot better than people for the most part. And I think it's important that we keep the quality of life for all of our citizens, including the furry ones, including the shelled ones, including the swimming ones, all of them. We need everything that's involved in our environment. If it was up to me, there would be no more construction out on the island. I think that we're about as full as we can get out here. I think that we've accommodated a lot of people. I think as people, the original owners are dying off, I think there needs to be a resale impact fee. Because the original owners of the condos, they all paid for the infrastructure. You guys paid for these roads. You guys paid for everything with the beach accesses and the lights and all the safety features. You guys paid for all that. But who's going to continue to pay for it? Since most of Martin County doesn't really even get out to the island, where's the division of responsibility for that? And I think we need to open communication better between the island and the mainland. It seems like there's two completely different sets of ideals and ideas, and we're all Martin County citizens. We need to find a way to help and protect each other.
You've addressed the river briefly, but can you talk about the quality of water? And I'll give you a specific example. It was a year and a half ago. My son, who was in high school at the time, didn't ask me if he could go to the beach. He asked me, is it safe to go to the beach? Because we actually had blue-green algae in our ocean waters. So if you would talk so water quality for Hutchinson Island is very important. How do you think we best address the water quality issues we faced here in Martin County, and especially District 1?
Well, I'm actually kind of an expert on this subject. I'm one of the founders of the River Warriors. I was one of the first employees and members of bullsugar.org. I've worked very, very closely with the Indian River Keeper. I was on the board of directors for a very long time. I gave up my business to be able to go back and forth to the meetings, the South Florida Water Management meetings, the RAC meetings, the Senate subcommittee meetings up in Tallahassee, back up and forth to Washington, D.C. We did that as River Warriors all on our own dime. And we became extremely well educated since 2013. And I'm very sure what needs to be done. First of all, we need to stop the discharges from coming here, period. The Caloosahatchee going west, down the C-43, they need to have some fresh water to balance their salinity issues. We do not. We are a completely brackish water system. If the water was crystal clear, beautiful, pure, and you could drink it right out of the lake, we still don't want it, and we can't use it. South Florida Water Management District has been managing water until very recently, specifically for Big Sugar. And it's just not fair. They don't pay for that. They've got a $25 an acre impact fee. They don't have anybody that's looking over them. When we're getting flooded, their fields are dry. When we're dry, their fields have plenty of water. And when Governor DeSantis came in and he got rid of the entire South Florida Water Management District Governing Board and put in the new board, they started working closely with Congressman Brian Mast, who was a real quick study in this. And I worked with him from before the time he got elected on the environmental issues, and we still speak on a regular basis today. He came up with a great idea that we've all been talking about for years: lower the lake. If the lake going into the rainy season is at 10.5 to 11 feet, 2 years in a row, even with Hurricane Dorian, we've had no discharges. And the seagrass is coming back. Mother Nature will heal herself if we give her a break. So I think that the reservoir coming online that we're building down south is going to be a big boom. We kind of got screwed on that one a little bit on SB 10 because at the last minute before it went to the floor, it went before some sugar lobbyists and the verbiage was changed. I was in the room. I know that that's a fact. And it took out all of the clauses for enforcement. It took out the possibility of eminent domain. We still need a bunch of more acres of marshland to be able to make this new reservoir work. That's going to be our upcoming battle in this next season. So whoever gets elected needs to be ready to fight that battle. I'm ready to fight that battle. as far as the toxic water, I worked with Dr. Larry Brand from the University of Miami on food chain studies when they discovered BMAA in the brains of necropsies on dolphin. So the food chain study that we did proved that it was not in the things that were under the water, the things that crawled, the things that swam beneath the water. The only animals and mammals that were affected were the ones that breached the water or swam right underneath the water. It's then that they came up with the idea that this was actually an airborne situation, and it came from the blue-green algae. Dr. Paul Gray did a documentary called Toxic Puzzle. I highly recommend everybody watch. They actually definitively proved that ALS is caused by this. And I'm relatively certain as time goes forward and it goes through peer review that you'll be hearing that it also causes autism, Alzheimer's, and dementia. So these are very real problems that we have. And the mismanagement of the water, we need to outlaw fertilizers. We need to ban, lawns are nice and they look pretty, but they're destroying our environment. It's, in my opinion, lawns are ridiculous. You can't eat it. It costs money to put it in. You have to burn fossil fuels to maintain it. You have to put poison on it that all goes into the river or the water or the drinking water system eventually. Everything ends up in the water. And so we're fighting all kinds of things from the side. And the big thing is personal responsibility. If you're a citizen of this world, if you're a citizen of this county, don't walk past a piece of trash. Stop and educate people that just moved here that don't get how important our water is. Don't let people dig holes on the beach, because we know that that's going to deter the turtles from being able to do what they need to do. It's up to us as citizens to take some personal responsibility. We need to quit looking for the government or somebody else to take care of it. This is our county. This is up to us. And we need to vote, we need to tell the people that are in office what we want, and we need to make the environment a priority.
If elected, will you continue to request a District 1 MSTU? So that would be for your personal use as a county commissioner. And if so, how would you use those funds to benefit the district?
Well, I'd have to look more into that, to be perfectly honest. The gist of what I'm getting on this kind of makes me angry.
Well, District 1, that's solely for the county commissioner's use.
Right.
On Hutchinson Island, we pay 3 separate MSTUs that show up on our tax bill as 2 MSTUs. One is the District 1 County Commissioners MSTU. Several of the county commissioners have that, and those are discretionary funds they use to benefit the county. On Hutchinson Island, since the 80s, we've paid an MSTU for beach renourishment, and then beginning in 2011, 2012, that MSTU was doubled, and $106,650 of that second MSTU each year is earmarked to pay for the plans that were set up by the Hutchinson Island Coalition. The Hutchinson Island Coalition, as of November the 2018, I believe, ceased to exist, and over $660,000 has already been spent to implement the plans put in place by the Hutchinson Island Coalition. And there are no plans that we know of going forward. So,
Well,
our question is, and that was going to be my next question. So, one, the county commissioner's discretionary fund, MSTU, would you continue to ask for that?
No.
And so that's that. And then, in relation to...
let me expound on that a little bit. No, I wouldn't. Because I think that's part of the problem. We've got too much stuff going on that nobody knows about. Things need to be... We live in the Sunshine State. We should have sunshine on everything. The county commissioners need to allocate money that people know about where it's going, especially the people it's affecting. And to just arbitrarily let this group that's already disbanded make decisions without coming before the whole board, this is all one county. It might be my district, but it's all one county. And the money comes out of the same bank. And as far as discretionary income no, absolutely not. We don't need anything that can't be done without everybody knowing about it. If I'm county commissioner, you can bet that every meeting I have will be published. Though I will never have a meeting alone with anybody that wants to do business with the county. And I will talk to all of my constituents before I make a decision on anything that's going to affect their pocketbook or their quality of life.
And how will you do that? How will you, if you are elected county commissioner for District 1, maintain that dialogue?
Social media. That's the way to do anything anymore. That's the way I'm working most of my campaign due to COVID. And it's important, if people want to know, I will make sure they have a place that they can go and easily find out information. You can go and look and see what I did all week long. At the end of the week, I'll give you a complete update on who I visited with, what they wanted to talk about, and I'll ask you how you feel about it. And if something comes up that I feel strongly enough that it needs your input before we as a board can make a decision, I'll insist on a vote from the community, not from the county commissioners, but from the people that are actually going to have to deal with it. The shady backroom deals that have been going on in this county have got to stop. There's no reason that the people of this county that are such high caliber, quality, ethical, moral people should have to put up with all the corruption that we deal with at a county level. It's ridiculous. We're talking about way too much money for people to just arbitrarily be able to pass it around without the people that are actually giving you the money telling you what they want to do with it. And I think absolute open transparency is the key.
Well, since this was not one of our questions, but to follow up, one of the things we've noticed is that the consent agenda for the county commissions has become larger and larger. There's less and less open to public comment, and the expenditures are just blanket votes. You see an amount and you don't know what the county is spending that money for. How do you feel about those consent agendas and the lack of, I'd say, transparency, the lack of availability for those of us who are in the county to know how that money is being spent?
Well, from the county commissioner side, I can see that it would be quite burdensome to be able to do that. But big damn deal. They're making $77,000 for a part-time job, and they've all got assistants. Do the work. Get the information out there. Let people participate. And if it puts you out and it takes a little bit more time, since you guys, the county commissioners, vote their own raises anyway, maybe we'll give you an extra $10 an hour if you start doing it right. But no, I'm sick to death of everything being a surprise. I mean, I go to a lot of the meetings. I'm more informed and more involved than the majority of the people, unfortunately. And I'm on a weekly shocked at something new that I see going on that I had no idea about. And I'm sick of it. We pay for this. They work for us. I'll work for you.
Last question. What experiences, accomplishments, or services to our community make you the best person to represent District 1, and especially Hutchinson Island?
Well, I touched on the majority of them briefly, but I am one of the founders of 10 City Helpers. I've been working with the homeless people in Martin County, especially District 1, for like the last 7 or 8 years. I've worked with the food pantry over at the church for equally as long. I worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters on their fundraising board for the Taste of Martin and both of their golf tournaments every year for 10 years. I was one of the founders of the River Warriors. I was one of the first people that was a founding member of bullsugar.org, and then ended up actually working with them for a while. I've worked with Friends of the Everglades, and I was part of what helped move them into Stewart and made our environmental group stronger. I go to the Rivers Coalition meetings. I go to the beach cleanups. I go to the golf tournaments. I participate. I help people. I perform weddings. I perform funerals. I take care of my community. And I think that it puts me in a very unique situation against Doug Smith, because I've been here for 20 years and I've never seen him roll up his sleeves to do anything. It wasn't a photo op, or there wasn't another politician that was bigger than him that he thought he could grab a coattail on. The only people he talks to are the people that are handing him checks or want to build something here. I think it's time he starts talking to us. And if he ends up staying and I don't get this job, I strongly encourage the people from Martin County to stay on him like white on rice, and to see everything he does and make him stop this behavior.